not to be confused with medical or legal advice. An appearance on this platform is not necessarily an endorsement, but as always, we encourage you to do your own research. Enjoy the show.
Good evening, everyone. And, of course, welcome back to another very exciting episode of Red Pill News Live. Hope you guys are having a lovely day. Thank you so much for joining us. Well, the Epstein files are finally going to be coming out. Thank you, dear. Elected officials, Democrat elected officials, are also calling for the command and control structure of the military and the federal government to be ignored, essentially asking for treason. An interesting interview was given by the former head of Charlie Kirk's security about some of the things that were seen on that day. We're definitely going to talk about that. And the blowback from the Epstein files is much, much bigger than I think the Dems were hoping it would be. Bill and Hillary Clinton, as you can see, refusing to testify. I guess we're just going to have to give them a good old-fashioned subpoena. No more invitations. Come on down. You're the next contestant on The Price is Right. If you guys haven't yet, do me a favor. If you wouldn't mind, just hit that like button, hit the thumbs up, hit the red pill. Help us out by sharing. No more invitations. Broadcast, really do appreciate it. Having a problem with the chat over on YouTube, but I think I might have gotten it figured out. All right, guys, that's it. We're going to get into it. Sit back, relax, and grab your popcorn because we're going to get started right about now. All right, welcome back, everyone. Thank you very much for being here. Sincerely appreciate you hanging out with us today and every day at 5 p.m. Eastern right here on Red Pill News Live. Thank you very much, and let us begin today. First of all, I'd like to give a big shout-out to the sponsor of today's program. That's going to be my friends over here. And, of course, it doesn't work, so let me just cue this up. That's the wrong screen. There we go. Yeah, there we are. All right. My friends over here at onenessdrops.com/redpill78, where you can get your chlorine dioxide water purification kits. Chlorine dioxide is a miracle substance which will allow you to create clean, fresh, potable water from sources that would otherwise be unsafe for drinking. It's probably in use by your own municipal water supply, but this is the kind of thing you want to have on hand because if for some reason you're unable to get clean, fresh drinking water from the tap, or maybe you're out camping or hiking or the worst possible scenario happens, then obviously water is life. You need to be able to create your own clean drinking water. So it comes in a number of different formulations, but because of the miracle of modern chemistry, depending on the specific formulation, it doesn't matter. You just mix parts A and B, and then you have active chlorine dioxide. Chlorine dioxide is also used for a whole host of other things. We also use it in our dogs' drinking water because it cleans their teeth and takes care of all of the nasty microbes without stripping away the good microbes that they need. You can also get their mullein extract tincture for healthy lungs, their soursop extract tincture for cellular regeneration, and of course they also offer DMSO. You can read more about DMSO and chlorine dioxide on my website at redpill78news.com. Just go to the news section. There will be a couple of blog posts where you guys can get some more information. Also, when you use that link, you'll get 15% off your order. If you just go to onenessdrops.com, make sure you use the code redpill78 to get that special discount. All right, you guys. We are going to be talking about Epstein, but we've got a couple of other things I want to get into first. First of all, I was highly, highly unsurprised, but also shocked when I saw this video earlier today of a bunch of Democrat elected officials, many, actually all of them, former military or intelligence and they are sending a message to other members of the military and the intelligence community to defy orders from President Trump and Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. Now, for my military members out there in the audience, what type of punishment is there for people who not only suggest this, but if you happen to be a member of the military or a member of the intelligence community and you directly defy the orders of the chief executive officer, the president of the United States of America? Well, what can happen? Now, obviously, here beginning this little video is Senator Elissa Slotkin. She was my senator back in Michigan, and she is also a former Central Intelligence Agency member. But of course, you know what they say, you never leave the agency. You only walk away to get cover in another location.
I'm Senator Elissa Slotkin.
Senator Mark Kelly.
Representative Chris DeLuzio.
Congresswoman Maggie Goodlander.
Representative Chrissy Houlihan.
Congressman Jason Crow. I was a captain in the United States Navy.
Former CIA officer.
Former Navy.
Former paratrooper and Army Ranger.
Former intelligence officer.
Former Air Force.
We want to speak directly to members of the military
And the intelligence community.
Who take risks each day
To keep Americans safe.
We know you are under enormous stress and pressure right now.
Americans trust their military.
But that trust is at risk.
This administration is pitting our uniformed military,
And intelligence community professionals.
against American citizens.
like us. You all swore an oath.
To protect and defend this Constitution.
And right now, the threats to our Constitution aren't just coming from abroad.
But from right here at home.
Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
No one has to carry out orders that violate the law.
Or our Constitution.
We know this is hard.
And that it's a difficult time to be a public servant.
But whether you're serving in the CIA,
In the Army,
Our Navy,
The Air Force.
Your vigilance is critical.
and know that we have your back.
because now, more than ever,
The American people need
Now, more than ever, that's the line. That's always the line.
you.
We need you to stand up for our laws.
our Constitution,
And who we are as Americans. Don't give up.
don't give up.
don't give up.
Don't give up the ship.
Now, the first thing I want to say is Elissa Slotkin has lost some weight, probably on that Ozempic. Second thing I'd like to say is that they're not wrong, okay? Illegal orders are illegal orders. You are supposed to defy illegal orders, but none of the orders that are being given are illegal. Now, the only thing that I can point to that they may suggest would be illegal would be what the Democrats are claiming in Congress, which is that the strikes on the Caribbean drug boats is somehow illegal. But again, the United States has the authority and the sovereignty to protect itself and its citizens, no matter where that is. These are international waters. These people are running on drug lines. They are bringing massive amounts of drugs into the United States of America. And Elissa Slotkin can tell you the CIA has had a big hand to play in that. So that might be why she started the video there with her special message to members of the intelligence community, her particular branch of the intelligence community. Now, other than that, what are they talking about? I mean, are they suggesting that the good men and women of ICE and Customs and Border Patrol are doing something illegal when they go out on the streets and arrest illegal aliens with violent criminal records to take them off of the streets so that they can't victimize or otherwise harm American citizens? I don't know. That seems to be generally what they've been proposing recently, but none of that they're doing is illegal. I would challenge them. If they think that the president or Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War, is doing something illegal, then go through the proper channels and attempt to do something about it. But I think we're all well aware that the grasp that many of these people have on what the law actually entails is tenuous at best. So they, generally speaking, don't know what the F they're talking about, to quote President Trump, more or less. Q Patriot Angel says, just being here with your feet solid on the ground for decades. Thank you. Thank you so much, Q Patriot Angel. I really do appreciate it. Also, Filter Dog 1 calling for insurrection. That's sure what it sounds like to me. So I don't know. I think that it would be wonderful if somebody looked into this a little bit more. I know that the administration pays attention to social media, so we'll have to see. Did they record this in the course of their duties inside Congress? Were they going to think they would be covered by the speech and debate clause? I couldn't tell exactly where they were filming from, but certainly they could get away with it if they were doing it from inside Congress. That's just the sad fact of the matter. Now, here is an odd story. A man from Michigan named J.D. Vance was just sentenced to 2 years in federal prison for threatening to assassinate President Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance. What are the chances? Anyways, this is another blue sky liberal maniac, 67-year-old guy from Michigan. His name on Blue Sky was Diaper JDV. I don't know what that insinuates. Maybe he's a diaper-philiac or something like that. Anyways, he was just sentenced this week to 2 years in federal prison because he was posting online threats against the president and the vice president. He's from Grand Rapids. This is a generally, sort of well-to-do area of the state, western portion of the state. I guess there are some lower income areas in there, but Grand Rapids proper is a, fairly posh area. At least it was the last time I was there. I haven't been to Michigan for a long time. Anyways, he wrote in these messages that he didn't care if the Secret Service came and took him out as long as he got a chance to do some damage to the administration. He said he'd also gladly spend the rest of his life in prison. Well, we can't give you the rest of your life, but we've got 2 years. We'll split you down the middle. Now, each of these charges also carried a maximum penalty of 5 years in prison and a fine of $250,000. I don't know if they are charging him any money at all, but the U.S. attorney who was handling the case, Timothy Verhey, said that the advent of the internet gives us all an opportunity to engage in the healthy exchange of ideas that are so important to democracy. But some would rather use this tool to threaten and intimidate, conduct that causes fear and damages our democratic ideals. When Vance said he planned to kill our president and vice president simply because he disagreed with them, he crossed a line we all understand, and so he had to be punished. Threats against our nation's leaders and their families will not be tolerated. Individuals who threaten the president, vice president, or any U.S. Secret Service protectee will be investigated and held accountable for their actions. Now, Vice President J.D. Vance is James Donald Bowman, but he later changed his name to Vance because that was his grandparents' surname. He became James David Vance. I know a lot of people were weirded out by the change of name at some point, but he didn't really have a relationship with his father, and he was raised by his grandparents. So now the guy who is J.D. Vance in Michigan, he is James Donald Vance Jr. Isn't that strange? They were both James Donald at one point. Anyways, this guy is now in prison. Looks like he's been fined $2,000 by a U.S. district judge, Jane Beckering in Grand Rapids. I'm sorry, that's another one. Richard James Spring of Comstock Park, Michigan. He was serving 18 months in prison because he threatened to take out the president after committing rape. Of course, President Trump never did that. Lee Walden says, all right, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt for 1 minute. You either retire or get out with bennies, or are you going against court-martial? You're going to get more treason or sedition. Certainly, all of those people who were sending that message have already taken their bennies and run. They've also now got a posh U.S. Senate or House of Representatives pension that they're going to be getting for the rest of their lives, along with free health care, so they can basically do or say whatever they want. Absolutely insane. Now, here, we also have an update for you on that situation with the James Comey case. Now, William Fitzpatrick, the judge that we talked about yesterday, is not the judge that's actually like overseeing the case itself. He's overseeing the oversight of the case. He's a magistrate judge. So a magistrate judge is different from a federal judge because it's not an Article III position. He doesn't get nominated. He does not have to be confirmed by the Senate. He's basically like an errand boy for the federal judges. And he's appointed essentially to help out with sort of the lower level housekeeping stuff. He is not allowed to preside over felony trials. Now, here's the other thing. I said yesterday that Fitzpatrick is deep state. We're going to back that up right now. He was, for over a quarter of a century, employed within the Department of Justice. And what's also not shocking is that during his tenure at the Department of Justice, he actually overlapped with James Comey. So there's a pretty good chance that they probably know each other. And the oversight of these crimes by William Fitzpatrick, in my opinion, never should have been allowed in the first place. He is doing exactly what I said yesterday. He's playing offense for James Comey. He even worked in the Eastern District of Virginia when he went to the U.S. Attorney's Office, which is the exact same outfit that is actually prosecuting James Comey right now. He spent 8 years in the Eastern District of Virginia trying to push charges from the Mueller investigation. Obviously, that did not work out. So now it would appear that William Fitzpatrick is trying to get a little bit of payback on the people he was unable to harm while he was working inside the Department of Justice and then the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Eastern District of Virginia. Zach, I'm sorry, did I misunderstand? Were those people calling for active? No, they were. You're correct. What I was saying is that those people, they don't have to worry about their pensions. The people inside the military, you're absolutely correct. If they don't agree with what the command and control structure is telling them to do, rather than committing treason or sedition, you should probably just go about your business and retire. If you think that the actions that you are being given are illegal, well, then you go ahead and raise that concern. And if it's not illegal, then somebody is going to obviously set you straight. No, you weren't incorrect at all. All right. Now, continuing from there, we do have a slight positive coming out of that decision from yesterday, because the federal judge who had been overseeing the actual prosecution of the James Comey case has actually handed a minor win to U.S. Attorney Lindsay Halligan. Why? Because she appealed the ruling of that magistrate judge, which was to hand over all of the grand jury materials in James Comey's case. That's unprecedented. That's not normally what would happen. That's why I say that William Fitzpatrick is 100% deep state working on behalf of Comey and his legal team. So he's got these 2 counts, false statements and obstruction, and we know all about them. The magistrate judge, William Fitzpatrick, was dismissive of the prosecutors. He scolded them. He said that U.S. Attorney Halligan had made 2 missteps to the grand jury that might put this case in jeopardy. And he also said that the DOJ might not have fully disclosed all of the requested grand jury materials since jurors rejected the first indictment with 3 counts. So then they, I guess, went and reworked the indictment, came back with 2 counts, and they were able to get it. Now, I don't know how that has anything to do with anything. Perhaps they're trying to suggest that the original count that did not pass through the grand jury would result in some level of political prosecution. I'm not sure. We'll likely find out in the very near future. But of course, Lindsay Halligan, as she would, appealed that decision. And then Judge Michael Nachmanoff, who also has his own connections to James Comey and is, of course, appointed by Joe Biden, has temporarily halted William Fitzpatrick's order. So the judge had ordered the government to file any objections to Fitzpatrick's order by 5 p.m. today. The defense was ordered to respond by Friday at 5 p.m. And in the meantime, the ruling from the magistrate judge is stayed, which means it just sits there. It has been ruled on, but it now has to wait for any possible problems that the prosecution may have. And then the defense gets the opportunity to respond to the issues that the prosecution may have. I'm holding out hope that this is not going to be just an immediate dismissal of James Comey's case. I find it difficult to believe that Lindsay Halligan, as professional as she is, would be able to come in and completely screw the pooch on this case. She definitely appears to have her heart in the right place. And if this case does go sideways, it's because the judges are dirty and we can't trust them. I can only hope that there are greater charges that are simply waiting in the wings to be filed against James Comey, and we haven't heard about them yet. Wounds Are Us says, I believe retired military can be recalled to active duty and court-martialed. Yes, they absolutely can. So I think it's, relatively rare. We've certainly talked about it in the case of, what was his name? The guy who said, I want to understand white rage. I can't remember his name. He's so inconsequential in the grand scheme of things. I just pushed him out of my mind. No, if Comey made a deal with the prosecution, then that would be the filing that we'd be seeing. We wouldn't have to go through the pageantry of all of these other filings for that to come up. Now, somebody had also suggested to me online, is it possible that James Comey is our guy? No. If James Comey had been our guy, then James Comey wouldn't have been charged in the first place. And if he does have this case dismissed, it's not because he's our guy or he's working with the government, because that's just not how they do it, even with a high-profile person like James Comey. James Comey, in my opinion, 100% is dedicated deep state, and he is not going to help the government unless it looks like his life is in a particular form of jeopardy, which means that he would probably spend the rest of his life in prison. So we would be seeing a different order of events taking place if James Comey had either made a deal or if he was secretly working for President Trump. This would be completely unnecessary. If he gets off on these charges, if these charges are dismissed, first of all, it can go one of two ways. It can be done without prejudice, or it can be done with prejudice. If it's done with prejudice, the prosecution is unable to bring these specific charges again. That would be the worst case scenario. If the charges are dropped without prejudice, then that means that the government would have the opportunity to present them to another grand jury, and they would likely do that right away. But if that happens, it's not because James Comey is our guy. It's because James Comey is being protected by the multitude of deep state swamp rats that are currently infested in the judicial system of the United States, whether it's at the federal magistrate, local court. It doesn't matter. There are corrupt judges all over the place. It's a huge problem. I don't know how we're really going to solve it, but I'm hoping that this may be one of those answers. I mean, we told you not that long ago that Judge Jeb or James Boasberg had been put forward for impeachment by a number of individuals. I believe it was Eric Schmidt, Senator Eric Schmidt, who actually filed for this to happen. So he submits that to the D.C. Circuit Court. Now, as of yesterday, he is asking why something has not actually happened yet. He says, no more delays. Judge Boasberg must be suspended immediately. Impeachment is underway. He should not get to hear another case. This afternoon, I led the effort to make that suspension happen. Here is my letter to Chief Judge Srinivasan of the D.C. Circuit Court. Let's go ahead and read it. All right, so Judge Srinivasan, we write to you regarding Chief Judge James Jeb Boasberg of the United States District Court for the District of Columbia. Chief Judge Boasberg should be administratively suspended pending formal impeachment by the House of Representatives and, if impeached, an impeachment trial by the Senate. On November 4th, articles of impeachment were filed against Boasberg over, among other things, his role in improperly granting gag orders in the Arctic frost probe, ignoring his responsibility to wield power of his office in a constitutional manner. Chief Judge Boasberg granted special counsel Jack Smith authorization to issue frivolous non-disclosure orders in the furtherance of Arctic frost. Your court adopted a similar sentiment when it reversed Chief Judge Boasberg in regarding sealed case, I guess we don't know what that is, which found that he had erred too permissively, granting government-requested non-disclosure orders against X Corp. I believe this was the case where they were trying to get President Trump's direct messages. These articles of impeachment have received bicameral support, meaning both houses of Congress. Chief Judge Boasberg's role in Arctic frost is not the only complaint levied against him. He is accused of improperly using his role as chief judge on March 15th, 2025, to assign himself JGG versus Trump, a case in the Supreme Court he found that he lacked jurisdiction over. You guys probably remember Judge Boasberg was on vacation. He was not supposed to be getting any new cases, but he knew that that case was coming down against Trump, and so he inserted himself just so that he could be the one to preside over it. All right. And in July of 2025, it came to light that on March 11th of this year, at one of the conference's semi-annual meetups, you remember this story as well, Judge Boasberg disregarded its history, tradition, and purpose to push a wholly unsolicited discussion about concerns that the administration would disregard rulings of federal courts leading to a constitutional crisis. That was an unheard of level of statements and hand-wringing that Judge Boasberg engaged in at that conference. It was totally inappropriate. So there is precedent for administratively suspending a judge pending an impeachment inquiry. The most recently impeached judge, G. Thomas Porteous Jr. of the Eastern District of Louisiana, was administratively suspended prior to his impeachment while the Judicial Conference of the United States investigated allegations against him for bribery and fraud. As chief judge of the applicable circuit judicial court, you are tasked with overseeing the Article III remedial process for the misconduct of the appellate and district judges of your court. So Eric Schmidt saying in no uncertain terms, Judge, it's time for you to do your job. You already know the circumstances of this case. We have put this forth. The impeachment is happening. There should not be any further cases that Judge Boasberg gets to hear, because obviously if we impeach him in the midst of those cases, it's going to cause turmoil. And Judge Boasberg's record speaks for itself. We don't need to watch the video of the impeachment articles being introduced. We've already seen that. Let me real quickly refresh my screen over here so I can make sure that I'm seeing everything that I am meant to. And yes, there we go. Very, very good. Okay. All right. Now, moving on from Judge Boasberg, we are going to now move to Letitia James. So more fireworks coming from Letitia James's own filings. Again, we have a post by Sam Antar. Now, it's really important that Sam Antar is the one who discovered the level of criminality and wrongdoing that Letitia James had engaged in, because he is a left-winger, okay? He is a Democrat. He is someone who is a registered Democrat and not a fan of Donald Trump. So the efforts that he is undertaking has everything to do with white-collar crime. Whitecollarfraud.com is his website. Now, he says, James called me a right-wing fringe blogger in her motion to dismiss today. This is also from, this is from earlier today. If exposing your own filings makes me fringe, what does that make the person who signed them? Let me be clear. I'm a registered Democrat. Eric Trump blocked me years ago when I mocked him for being born on third base and thinking he hit a triple. I spent years battling Patrick Byrne, a Trump ally, over accounting fraud. They call me right-wing because saying he was correct is too painful. But here is the catastrophic error that her lawyers just made, as if the errors from yesterday were not bad enough. She claims the investigation found no evidence, but wait until you hear the evidence that her own lawyers introduced into the record. Exhibit F from her filing today, first of all, has 5 different things that we need to pay attention to. Deficiency issue, which is fraud in the application and acquiring of her loan. Category of fraud. Subcategory of origination fraud. Defect, occupancy fraud on her second home. And the individual believed to be involved is Letitia James herself. You see, her lawyers, much like yesterday, they said that there was no findings. There was insufficient evidence, but then in the same filing, they tell us about the 115,000 pages of evidence that they received in discovery. Doesn't sound like insufficient evidence to me. And then today, her lawyers file a motion claiming that there is no evidence of fraud, while at the same time attaching a document that classifies the loan in question as fraud on 4 different occasions in 4 different ways. And the only person who is associated with that loan is Letitia Pkwy James herself. So either her lawyers didn't read their own exhibit, or they were just hoping that nobody else would. So let's take a look at Sam Antar's post right here. So her outrageous government conduct motion demands discovery that will prove systemic fraud. On November 7th, Letitia James filed a motion to dismiss her federal indictment claiming insufficient evidence, no probable cause, and absence of evidence. 4 amicus briefs followed. We spoke about that yesterday. Each of these briefs all said the same thing. We are a career prosecutor. We looked at the evidence. There is no evidence. It is not, therefore, appropriate to charge her. And then it was a week later when her lawyers accidentally tell us that there's, in actuality, 115,000 pages of evidence, which requires them to ask for a 2-week extension. Doesn't sound like insufficient evidence. And then 3 days after that is her motion to dismiss, where she says that this is outrageous government conduct, and so therefore she should also have the case thrown out. So in order to understand this case fully, you've got to understand the players. So you have the Federal Housing Finance Authority. That's FHFA. They are the regulator that oversees Fannie Mae. Fannie Mae is the government-sponsored enterprise that bought Letitia James's mortgage, and they also happen to conduct these fraud investigations. But you've also got Nation Star Mortgage doing business as Mr. Cooper. And they are the mortgage servicer that formally reported Letitia James's loan as fraudulent to Fannie Mae for them to investigate. So now James has filed these 3 motions in 10 days, claiming the prosecution is politically motivated, requesting the extension because of the 115,000 pages of evidence, and then claiming that there is outrageous government conduct because it demands more discovery. So in doing all of these things, she has made several catastrophic errors, or rather, it is better to say that her legal team made these catastrophic legal errors. Because every single time she's filing something, she is admitting that there is more evidence of the crimes that she is accused of. She is demanding that prosecutors produce the exact evidence that will prove her guilt. And in her motion, you find that she has made these explosive allegations. Number 1, Bill Pulte illegally accessed her mortgage files from Fannie Mae's database. That's an interesting accusation right there. Number 2, Bill Pulte fired the FHFA ethics investigators who claimed and complained about his access. Number 3, Bill Pulte fired the acting inspector general, who was Joe Allen. Joe Allen turned over internal complaints to prosecutors. Number 4, Fannie Mae employees found insufficient evidence, but Pulte pushed the investigation anyway. And then 5, the FHFA criminal referral was based on my blog posts, not legitimate investigations. So in her motion, she definitely seems to attack Sam Antar. Many of the exhibits referenced in the referral were available from a single source, which also contains the only reporting on the allegations that predate the referral letter, the blog of a right-wing investigator, Sam Antar, who has claimed credit for proving and providing Bill Pulte with the facts necessary for the criminal referral. When a state attorney general's best argument is a blogger noticed, you know it's got to be bad. So these are the most devastating bits of evidence that are in Letitia James's own motion. We've got a smoking gun from her own motion. So the attacks that James is making, stating that there is insufficient evidence, are directly refuted from Exhibit F that her legal team filed with the court. And this is not the opinion of Fannie Mae. This is a mandatory letter from a lender. It is a self-reporting tool, a formal regulatory filing where the mortgage servicer reports the fraud they find to Fannie Mae. And then Fannie Mae actually does the investigation, and then they report their findings. And then that's how we end up with somebody like Letitia James being brought before the court and charged with these crimes. So in the May 14th, 2025 lender report, it's document 109-6 in Exhibit F of James's own motion. MRC reviewed FNMA's selling guide dating back to 2019, prior to the loan execution date, and there was no evidence to suggest James received favorable pricing or loan to value for a second home compared to an investment property since the subject loan to value was 80%. MRC reviewed the mortgage payment history to determine whether mortgage payments were submitted by Thompson or another third party. The payments appeared to be from the same checking account utilized by James at the time the loan origination was made for the asset verification, gave a Citibank account number from which the payments were coming. Thus, James appeared to be the only person making payments to MRC. As a result, MRC is reporting James for suspicion of misrepresentation of occupancy in connection with the subject loan. However, given the date of loan origination from 2020, the limited access to utilities associated with the subject property, this cannot be unconfirmed. Individual believed to be involved is Letitia James. There is the issue. This is Fannie Mae's hierarchical fraud classification system. Each level that Fannie Mae has drills down from very broad to very specific. So number one, you have deficiency issue fraud. That is the top level problem. Number two, you have the category of fraud. They are confirmed as fraud and not confirmed as an error. Number three, you have the subcategory origination fraud, meaning it occurred at the loan application. And then number four, you have defect, which is occupancy fraud, second home. This is the specific type of fraud that was committed by the offender, in this instance, Letitia Pkwy James. So they didn't code this as a clerical error or a potential issue. In the fraud taxonomy that Fannie Mae has created, a government agency that deals with this stuff on a daily basis, it is classified as fraud, origination fraud, occupancy fraud, second home. The narratives use the standard phrase suspicion of misrepresentation because until it's proven in a court of law, it's only a suspicion. But the QC outcome is a formal fraud classification, which is what triggers Fannie Mae's defect and repurchase framework. It's not an opinion. It is a mandatory regulatory report. So now Fannie Mae has guidelines that they have to follow. When a lender's quality control review identifies a situation like this, loan defects that make a loan ineligible as deliverable to Fannie Mae, the lender must formally report to Fannie Mae what they have found within 30 days. That is exactly what happened. And NationStar Mortgage, LLC, who is Mr. Cooper, they completed this quality control review. They filed this report with the lender self-report on May 14th of this year. They formally notified Fannie Mae that Letitia Pkwy James's loans contain origination fraud and it triggers buyback requirements. This is like the mortgage industry equivalent of a mandatory fraud escalation. So it's the step just before they demand that the original loan servicer buy that loan back from Fannie Mae. So Fannie Mae, again, is not speculating. This is a federally regulated servicer filing a fraud report under penalty of federal repurchase obligations. If NationStar is wrong about the fraud classification, then they owe Fannie Mae money. So it's not like they just go around filing these reports all willy-nilly because they certainly don't want to screw up and they don't want to be on the hook for the full mortgage value of the home that they fraudulently handed out a loan for. So Letitia James files a motion claiming that career prosecutors and Fannie Mae employees working under a very strict regulatory framework found insufficient evidence and no probable cause. Then she attaches an exhibit where her own mortgage servicer formally classifies her case as fraud and reports it to Fannie Mae as required by regulation. It's not a potential issue. It does not require further review. It does not contain insufficient evidence. It is lock, stock, and two smoking barrels. Exactly what you want to find. Okay, this is like a bullseye shot right down the center. In fact, you emptied your mag, 18 rounds straight into that bullseye. So what exactly did NationStar and Mr. Cooper discover when they investigated the loan that they gave to Letitia James? Number one, Letitia James appeared to be the only person making the mortgage payments from her Citibank account, verified, again, locked up. Number two, despite claiming that Thompson occupied the property. Thompson is, I believe, her niece. Or perhaps, somebody else in her family. I don't remember the entire hierarchy within her family. The payments were coming directly from Letitia James's own account. There was only one occupant who had been on that lease since October 2020. Yes, it was her niece, Nakia Moni Thompson. And Thompson had also previously lived at Letitia James's Brooklyn address from 2015 to 2017. I believe during that time she was working her campaign. There was also property insurance that was changed from owner-occupied to landlord policy in January of 2024. And this is what constitutes the occupancy fraud, which required the formal report to Fannie Mae. Again, there is no insufficient evidence. Fraud. It's origination fraud, occupancy fraud on a second home. And the note stating this cannot be unconfirmed refers to the limited access to utility records for verification, meaning there is not a finding that fraud didn't occur. It's a little bit tricky, and perhaps for somebody like Letitia James, maybe it is difficult to understand. I don't know, maybe her lawyers didn't go to a traditional Juris Doctorate university. I'm not exactly certain. I tend to think that they actually do know what they're talking about, and they're really trying to pull a James Comey on this. They're doing everything they can, throwing it at the wall and seeing what sticks. So essentially, the statement means they cannot definitively confirm all details due to limited utility access. They can't see the utility bills. They can't see whose names are on them, but they still have to formally report this case as fraud because of the totality of evidence that we have, everything that I have said to you during the course of this breakdown. This is not a political instance, okay? This is a case of clear-cut mortgage fraud with a specific designation that has been formally worked out through a detailed regulatory framework. This servicing company was mandatorily required to create this quality control review, and in the course of that quality control review, they had to formally classify this loan as fraudulent, and the filing with the regulatory body, which is Fannie Mae, had to be sent over via the federal guidelines. If they did not do these things, then they run the risk of not only being on the hook for these loans, but also having their entire business destroyed. They themselves could go bankrupt, and even more than that, they themselves could have federal charges filed against them. So I'm going to sum this up in a very simple statement. Letitia James is cooked. Okay? Letitia James, her legal team, have essentially made the case even better than the prosecutors have made the case at this point. I mean, sure, the prosecutors spelled out all of the problems, but now we've got an even deeper look into exactly what happened behind the scenes. This is not political persecution. This is not gross government misconduct. This is not an attempt to take down someone who is simply a political enemy of Donald Trump, even though they are a political enemy of Donald Trump. They also happen to be a fraudster. They are fraudulently obtaining loans and buying houses all over the country. That is the long and the short of it. All right. Now, we also got to talk about Lisa Cook. Because, baby, I think she is cooked as well. So Lisa Cook, the now embattled Federal Reserve Governor, is lashing out at Bill Pulte as well. She does not like Bill Pulte. She also says the allegations of mortgage fraud that she is facing are false. Man, if the investigation into Lisa Cook looks anything like the investigation into Letitia Pkwy James, my goodness, it is not going to be good for her. And I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting on Adam Schiff and Eric Swalwell to have charges filed against them, because both of them have done the exact same thing that these two ladies have done as well. But Lisa Cook is taking a slightly different path. She and her legal team have sent a letter to Pam Bondi and weaponization czar Ed Martin. And they are accusing Bill Pulte of cherry-picking certain statements on Lisa Cook's loan documents so that he can allege that she committed this mortgage fraud. So, as you know, Lisa Cook has filed a retaliatory lawsuit against President Trump. She's also suing the Federal Reserve Board of Governors. She's also serving the Federal Reserve Chairman, at least at this time, Jerome Powell. And she owns 3 properties. And she allegedly committed mortgage fraud on all 3 properties. And according to Bill Pulte, in the first criminal referral, Lisa Cook committed mortgage fraud. How? By lying on her mortgage application and by falsifying bank statements when she designated her out-of-state Atlanta condo as her primary residence. You see, only 2 weeks after taking a loan out on her Michigan home, which she also claimed was a primary residence, in case anybody here is confused, you can't have 2 primary residences, let alone 3, boys and girls. In late August, Bill Pulte sent a second criminal referral on Lisa Cook after she was allegedly caught lying about that 3rd property in Massachusetts. And attorneys for Lisa Cook claimed their client had different principal residences because of her distinguished career. And that career had taken her to different parts of the country. All right, so she is such an accomplished Federal Reserve governor that she needs to have primary residences in 3 different states. Gotcha.
Sure, Jan.
Yeah, sure, Jan. So, I don't know anybody who has 3 primary residences. I might know people who have a primary residence and then maybe they have a summer home. Maybe they have a condo or a timeshare or something like that. But you see the definition of a primary residence, and it's very specific for regulatory purposes. A primary residence is your primary home, the place where you reside most often. And because you're lucky enough to own 3 different homes or 2 homes and a condo, you can't evenly split up the time between those 3 residences and call each and every one of them a primary residence. Yeah, it just doesn't work like that. But the letter states, Governor Cook had different principal residences over the years because her distinguished career had taken her to academic posts at Harvard University and Michigan State University, a postdoctoral fellowship at Stanford's Hoover Institution, and a government post at the White House Council on Economic Advisors in Washington, D.C. This reflects why different mortgage applications accurately reported different properties as her primary residence at different periods of time. The only problem is that she got those 2 loans within 2 weeks of each other, guys. 2 weeks. Now, you know, when I bought a house in Michigan, that was definitely my primary residence. And then when I bought a house in Florida, that became my primary residence. Of course, I moved here. So obviously that was the deal. I put my other house up for sale. I wasn't living in both of those homes. If I had, that might have been fraud. Let me see. Northern Pike says, Zach, appreciate your steady reveal of news. Thank you so much, Northern Pike. I appreciate you. Now, to continue, the attorneys claimed Cook truthfully claimed her Atlanta condo would be a vacation home. Really?
Sure, Jan.
One property that was never her primary residence was the subject of a mortgage application that truthfully disclosed it would not be her primary residence but would be used for family visits. This was one stray reference to primary residence on the mortgage form that was plainly innocuous in light of the several other truthful and more specific disclosures about the property's use. There is no fraud, no intent to deceive, nothing whatsoever criminal or remotely a basis to allege mortgage fraud. The only problem is that the only place that it matters where you check that box is going to be on the mortgage application, because that's where you're going to get the determination of your interest rate and your down payment. And of course, I mean, you know, depending on the loan, that's what's going to determine what type of insurance you have to have on the residence. I mean, you can state up and down, left and right. Oh, yeah, this is just going to be a summer home. We're just going to be heading down to Atlanta during the winter. We're going to spend Christmas in Atlanta. That's the only time we're ever going to stay there. You can say that to every person in the world. You can tell your real estate agent, you can tell your loan officer all you want. But if you get the mortgage application and you check, oh, yeah, this is going to be a primary residence. We're going to be living there full time. I love Atlanta. Then that's the only one that it actually matters. So Respectfully, I disagree with the Cook legal team. Bill Pulte has claimed he has evidence that suggests that Lisa Cook actually listed the Atlanta property for rent. Here's the other thing. Both Letitia James and Lisa Cook didn't bother to report any rental income for the money they were bringing in from this stuff. We have, making it an investment property. Okay, so that would have been even a bigger hit on the mortgage and also the insurance. It was never going to be a vacation home. Bill Pulte says, we have obtained a document Lisa Cook submitted to the U.S. government while serving as a Federal Reserve governor. In it, on February 28th, 2023, she represented to the U.S. government and the Atlanta property is her personal residence, Pulte previously said. So that actually appears to be different from the mortgage origination application. However, Lisa Cook, as a then-sitting Fed governor, and 6 months earlier on September 1st, 2022, appears to have listed that same property for rent. So now the Supreme Court recently ruled, of course, Lisa Cook gets to stay on her job. The High Court is going to hear oral arguments in Lisa Cook's case in late January. I am eagerly waiting to see how all of this pans out. I just don't believe Lisa Cook is going to get to stay in her job. Do you guys remember the other Federal Reserve governor that had to step down from her position recently? Guess why she had to step down? She was in the middle of an ethics investigation. She was buying stock and she was padding her pockets when she wasn't supposed to be, because that's the kind of people that are obviously working in the DC swamp. All right, real quick, y'all. I have a brief message from our friends over here on Rumble and 1775 Coffee. If you still have not yet tried 1775 Coffee, you do still have an opportunity. They have some of those starter kits available in limited supply. In those starter kits, you're going to get their bold dark roast. Hits you nice and hard, very robust. You're also going to get that smooth medium roast with a nice crisp finish. And then, of course, their Vitality Mushroom Coffee that gives you clean energy and laser focus without the typical caffeine crash. All of it is made from the highest quality beans you can possibly get. They are small batch. They are toxin and mold free. They are all single origin. It's not going to be a conglomeration of crap from all around the world. It is truly high class coffee. Plus, you're going to get some of those freebies. You're going to get that gold spoon clip. You're also going to get a very strong frother and a black 1775 tumbler. All told, my friends, it's $170 worth of coffee and gear, but for you, it's only $99. This is for the people who have been watching and wondering, wow, 1775 is really blowing up. I wonder if it's that good. Should I actually try it? I'm going to tell you right now that you actually should. So if you want to help out 1775 Coffee and support Rumble, I highly recommend it. You can do so by heading over to 1775coffee.com. Enter, /studio, because that way you're going to grab that starter kit before they're gone. And you'll also get the special deal. You can also use the QR code you see on screen or the link that you might see in the chat. But in this packet, you guys, you're not gonna feel like you missed. You're gonna feel like you missed an opportunity if you don't get this. So get yourself a package of bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something just like Rumble does. Thank you so much. Wonderful coffee. Thank you to 1775. That's that crisp, smooth, medium roast right there. Who do you call this Southern voice character? That is that's a Southern litigator. I don't know. I don't have a name for him. It's just I have a sort of like General Foghorn Leghorn Colonel Sanders Southern accent that I use. I like to think about perhaps what is it? In JFK when they had like all of those Louisiana lawyers in the courtroom and everybody is, waving themselves with fans. And it's like, it's hotter than a pistol in here, but that's what I like because I'm here for justice. Red pill rooster. I like that. I actually do like that. Oh, my client is innocent, Judge. This is a gross miscarriage of justice. I love that. All right, now we're going to hear from Charlie Kirk's former head of security. He's talking about the hand signals that we saw. This is very interesting. On Moon Ridge, I love the name, that you are now a monthly supporter over there on Rumble. I sincerely appreciate that. Also, Northern Pike says, Sometimes we feel like we have been thrown into this world like a dog without a bone. That's true. Yet we can overcome and toss a bone before we break on through to the other side. Yes. Break on through to the other side. Yes, we are all born with nothing except, of course, the spiritual connection that we have to our Creator and the love of our parents. Even if you don't have the direct love of your parents, I think that your parents, if for whatever reason you are adopted, you lose them, that bond is always there. It's never truly going to be gone. But we truly begin with nothing physical in this world, and we do have to make this life for ourselves. So, yes, I agree with you. Now I got to make a a character for the Red Pill Rooster. I got to see about making some art for it. All right, so let's look at Charlie Kirk's former head of security. So we have spoken about this guy at some point in the past. There were obviously a lot of rumors at the time suggesting that the people that were surrounding Charlie were using some type of suspicious hand signals shortly before. There were definitely messages going around on their Apple iWatches that appeared. There was also those Meta smart glasses, which have the ability to pop messages up on the screen, the heads-up display for the user. And a lot of people thought that it must have been nefarious. I think the verdict is still out, but that's why I'm so interested in this podcast. So Brian Harple is the gentleman in question, and he actually went on Sean Ryan to discuss what happened on that day. He said that these hand signals, basically, if we needed to relay a message, then we do it on comms. If we notice something, we're not going to use a hand signal. He said if you were to use hand signals, one of those hand signals you would normally see during a gesticulation, or are those definitive hand signals. They're definitive, so they can't be confused with a guy scratching his ass. So he's saying basically if we were using hand signals, they would be a lot more obvious. Now, again, you know, this is Frank, oh my gosh, Christian apologist, Frank, somebody's going to get it before me. Frank Turek. That's Frank Turek with the white hat. He's not on Charlie's security team. He's just a close personal friend of Charlie. But yeah, the guy in the black shirt, you had the guy that was also over there. A lot of people said that he had like a palm gun in his hand. I think that that's unlikely. Obviously, I haven't been, you know, it hasn't been proven one way or the other. So I'm not going to say definitively. I personally think it's unlikely. But let's take a look at this brief clip.
Well, I'll speak to this one. You're using hand signals, or if you were to use hand signals, and those are an option, especially like under MVG or things like that. One, are those hand signals normal ones that you would see during normal gesticulation? Or are those definitive hand signals? Mm-hmm. They're definitive, so that they can't be confused with a guy scratching ass. Mm-hmm. And so that's the first one.
A Dunyan. Okay, yeah, you're cool. You're cool, buddy. It's the reason we say no links in the chat is because people have come in here, like you get porn bots, you get spam bots, you get people dropping malicious things. So really, it's just about trying to protect the audience. But if you want to send it to me on my email, redpill78@proton.me, I've got a scanner that all of the links go through, and then I can verify that they're safe. So yeah, send it over, and I'll pull it up. Northern Pike says, on that farm, there was a rooster named Zach. I love it. Okay, here we go.
The second one is that hand signal. When a bubble team is there, we're not using hand signals. Sniper details, absolutely. Why? Because you can see that. Are we looking around at each other looking for hand signals? We're looking at in the front in our area of responsibility. If we needed to relay a message, then we would, hey, right here on comms, right? And or we're not.
See, this is personally another reason why I thought it was unlikely that there would be a need for hand signals. I mean, everybody was wired up. They all had, you know, I mean, like those glasses, you can be on like an active call on those glasses, but they would have been on like a team radio system, and they all had earpieces. So, you know, the hand signals, I understand why everybody was like, that looks suspicious. I mean, even me, I looked at it and I was like, okay, we got to look at this. We got to talk about it. But the one thing that creeps me out about the security team is that they like took them all offline. Like all of their personal information was taken offline. And then, of course, there's also Charlie's comments about people having worked for Mossad and IDF. I mean, certainly I think that is concerning, and we really haven't gotten any clarification on that.
Notorious for, if I need to get somebody's attention on the team, I'm not going to sit there and use a hand signal if he's in my line of sight. I'm just going to go like that. He's going to look up, and I'm going to go. Mm-hmm. And so if I looked up and did a hand signal on the team and did that or that, he's going to look at me like, so what do you want me to do then? Mm-hmm. Right. So for that, that's not good communication.
All right. So oh gosh, I don't want to watch the video again, man. So yeah, that makes sense to me. There are still so many questions about this case, and I have to be honest. I mean, I'm feeling like we're never going to get to the bottom of it. There is also still a lot of questions about Thomas Crooks, right? And because we recently had these reports come out from Tucker and from Miranda Devine, we talked about Crooks a little bit yesterday. We have Caroline Levitt commenting on this as well, which I thought that was great because, I mean, she is essentially the mouthpiece for the administration, saying the things that the administration isn't going to say directly. So she says that the American people deserve answers, and she is absolutely correct. So give me, oh, this is Luigi Mangione. No, I wanted to get to the clip of her talking about it. It looks like they may have just broken it up. All right, so we are just going to go through and read her comments. So she was on Miranda Devine's podcast, Podforce One. She said those questions, meaning the questions about Thomas Crooks, the fact that the FBI completely bungled the investigation, they washed away forensic evidence, they burned the body before there was any outside autopsy. They told us that Thomas Crooks had no online presence, and then when they did find an online presence, they didn't tell us about all of it. They only made mention of right-wing extremism, and it was clear that if this kid was Thomas Crooks, his online presence went from sort of right-wing extremism to left-wing extremism. She said these questions are definitely deserving of answers, and I understand why the public wants those answers. I believe the president does too. And it's a good question. It's one that I'd like to see the answer to, and I think all Americans would. She was, of course, speaking on Podforce One. If you want to watch this, you can go to Miranda Devine's YouTube channel, and you can watch it there. It's about an hour long, so it's totally worth the listen. But there are so many things about this. I mean, besides the fact that he was practicing shooting at a range where federal agents were also shooting, his home appeared to have been sterilized. He had multiple phones that were using supposedly encrypted channels. The FBI told us they couldn't crack them, but it actually turns out they were able to crack them. They just didn't tell anybody that they cracked them. Yeah, I think that likely what we're dealing with here is a corrupt administration that did the first part of the investigation. They didn't do it properly. They likely destroyed evidence. And then when President Trump's administration comes in, they pick up the pieces of what is undoubtedly a broken, incomplete, and sloppy investigation. And they've only got so much to work with. So I am not saying that Thomas Crooks and the Butler attempted assassination investigation is dead, but if it isn't dead, then that means that they are actively looking at other people that he may have been connected to. And we know that the only person that's been identified as having been in contact or in communication with Thomas Crooks is a member of an Antifa cell from Europe. And we know that those Antifa cells were just designated as foreign terrorist organizations. So I think that it's possible that through that operation, we will see movement on this case, but I'm not expecting it to happen at this moment. This might be another one of those things that comes out more closely aligned with the midterms. So we'll have to see. Hopefully there won't be any additional acts of political violence that happen in the meantime. Let's see. Trisha says, this is what I picture when you start talking in a Southern accent. Okay, let's see. Oh, here, we'll do it in this window. That's honestly what I picture, too. This guy in a hot Louisiana courtroom, waving a brief or something like that, standing in front of an old metal fan. Yes. Okay, Dr. Uke says, so no one's entertaining the Valhalla option. Tell me exactly what you mean by the Valhalla option. Are you talking about Kash Patel's statement about see you in Valhalla? I mean, that's something that operators will frequently say. It's not the first time I've heard it, so it meant it wasn't anything suspicious to me. If you're talking about something else, drinking a mint julep, yes, Dr. Uke, drinking a mint julep, yeah. Boss Hog, yeah, I could be thinking Boss Hog as well, though. It could be any one of those. Atticus Finch, yeah, maybe I am thinking about Atticus Finch. I was a big fan of To Kill a Mockingbird as a child. All right, you guys. So we also have an update on the LA Palisades fire situation. Right now, California is directly being accused of causing the Pacific Palisades wildfire, not because they wanted to burn everybody's houses down, although I think that there is a case to be made that that was certainly the end goal they were hoping for, but through mismanagement, intentional mismanagement and lying in court. So this is coming from newly obtained filings and court records, which suggest that the California state government is 100% solely responsible for the devastating events that took place in the Palisades portion of Los Angeles. Obviously, 12 people lost their lives, but they mismanaged their handling of underground embers from the initial fire, which then was allowed to spread. There was a state park representative who arrived on the scene of that original fire at 4 a.m. on January 1st after being notified by the LA Fire Department just after midnight, contradicting the state's claim that there was no prior notice. So through their own stupidity and ignorance, allegedly, if there is no intentional nature to this, although I don't necessarily believe there is, especially after Karen Bass made those statements, they caused the fire to take place. On January 2nd, another state representative directed firefighters. They prohibited these firefighters from bulldozing certain areas, which is what allowed the embers to reignite and then spark the larger Palisades fire 6 days after the initial arson incident. In response to a lawsuit over 3,000 affected residents, Governor Gavin Newsom's office claimed the state did not start the fire, had no responsibility for monitoring it, and received no notice, which all claims were refuted by unredacted LA Fire Department records showing their early state involvement. These state records redacted key details, including responses to emergency calls, while at the same time questions were being posed to Newsom's office and the California State Parks Department about these events, and they have all gone unanswered. So they basically burned the Palisades district to the ground, and it wasn't just a lone arsonist or climate change. They did it. Let's take a listen.
Tonight, we have new exclusive details on the investigation into the handling of the deadly Palisades fire in California. News Nation investigative correspondent Rich McHugh obtained documents that may show that the state is, in fact, solely responsible for that fire and possibly for the deaths of the 12 people who died. Last week, our exclusive reporting found that a state representative was present near the...
Marilise, me too. I loved that book. My mom and I read it when I was really young, and I used to watch the movie over and over again. I used to cry as a little kid. I was super sensitive as a little kid. I would cry at To Kill a Mockingbird. I cried watching the Elephant Man. It was so sad.
Burn scar, which had all the embers deep underground of a fire that had not been completely turned out. Well, it eventually turned into the Palisades fire. And apparently, according to our reporting, a state representative was on the scene ordering firefighters around, telling them where they could and could not go. Well, tonight, we not only have confirmation that a state representative was there, but we now know exactly when they arrived and why. News Nation's Rich McHugh joins us now with this exclusive. Rich, tell us what more you've managed to uncover.
Hi, Elizabeth. Well, it's really shocking, and ultimately it comes down to two really big questions. Number one, did state mismanagement ultimately cause the Palisades fire? And did they lie about it in court? Lie about all of it in court? And these new documents that we've
just
obtained
bust up this old schifferobe. I was like, what is a schifferobe, Mom?
suggests that that's absolutely what happened. Now, this all began in the early morning hours of January 1 when an alleged arsonist started the Lockman fire. And we know underground embers reignited 6 days later, starting a second, more devastating fire. That was the Palisades fire. In response to a lawsuit from over 3,000 Palisades residents alleging the state failed to monitor embers from that initial fire, Governor Newsom's office told News Nation the state didn't start this fire.
Why do I interrupt the clip? I interrupt the clip because I'm giving commentary on things that I'm seeing. I'm also interacting with the chat. I apologize if you don't like me interrupting the clip, but I tend to find it kind of monotonous to just play other things without actually commenting on what I'm seeing on screen. It's also a habit from when I was on YouTube because it's copyright infringement if you just take somebody else's clip and you don't add specific transformative commentary to it.
That was an arsonist, and the state wasn't responsible for responding to or monitoring this fire. Now, in new court filings, the state goes further and says the Palisades victims cannot allege that the state had notice of the Lockman fire because it never had notice. State records show a call at 12:27 a.m. on January 1, but with the rest of the incident report redacted, completely blacked out basically, including their response to that call. But a Los Angeles...
Look at that. I'm definitely going to interrupt it right here so we can get a good look at this incident detail report. You have to ask, and I'm sure that the plaintiffs in this case, the residents of the Pacific Palisades, looked at this incident report when they received it, and they said, what in the hell do they have to hide from us? If they didn't have any knowledge and they didn't know about it, then why wouldn't they tell us? It wasn't even until far, far later that we got word that there was an arsonist that was involved in the very first case. They acted like this just came out of nowhere. And of course, we have years of documented mismanagement of the brush and the forests in California. I mean, go back to the Paradise fires. My God, that was horrible.
Fire department record tells us all the details.
And the LAFD's records show not only did the LAFD notify the state just after midnight, the state sent a park representative at 1:46 in the morning on January 1, and that state park representative arrived on scene at 4 a.m. on January 1.
So now here the question becomes, why would a representative of the state defy the wishes of the fire department? Tell them you do not have the right or the ability to commit sufficient acts to ensure that this fire does not spread. Why would they stop them, unless, of course, it was intentional, from continuing on with their efforts to make sure that this fire was sufficiently put out? I mean, it's quite obvious that the goal that was the end here, the destruction of the Palisades, is what they wanted. I think that that's patently obvious because Karen Bass was aware that something was going to be happening. That's why she left. I think it's also pretty notable that Karen Bass tried to put the entire onus of this fire on the fire department. Remember, she blamed the fire chief and, basically said it was their fault for not getting out there soon enough. It was their fault for not having enough water. But it all goes back to the state. It all goes back to Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass.
Now, that Los Angeles Fire Department incident report shows what the state will not, that the Los Angeles Fire Department contacted the state after midnight on January 1, and a state park rep arrived on scene by 4 a.m.
If the state had no responsibility for this land, why are they sending a state park rep? The state is playing hide the ball. They're not being transparent with the public. Tell us that you sent a state park rep. Tell us what that state park rep did. Tell us on the next day, January 2, that you sent another state park rep who directed firefighters and said they couldn't bulldoze.
So obviously, the reason they don't want to say that they sent a state park rep is because it makes them look as if they have some culpability, some guilt in this situation. G. Fontes says a seersucker suit. Yes, definitely a seersucker suit. With the nice white and blue lines running down all those ribs. Oh, they're so nice in the summer. Maybe a linen suit as well. Absolutely. All right. Now, we are going to be talking about the Epstein situation next because there is a ton to discuss when it comes to this. And, of course, it is the usual type of shit show that you might expect to see. Real briefly, though, well, actually, let's go ahead. We are going to watch this clip, and we'll watch it all the way through. For those of you who don't like it when I offer commentary, the commentary will be sufficient at the end of the clip. But in the lead up to this vote, as we spoke about yesterday, Brooklyn Obama or Dollar Store Obama or Dollar Tree Obama, Hakeem Jeffries, had been in the U.S. House of Representatives for a period of time when a Democrat fundraising group sent a letter to Jeffrey Epstein inviting him to come support Hakeem Jeffries because he was going to be Brooklyn's Obama. And, of course, this fundraiser also had Barack Hussein Obama in attendance. It's quite clear that there was a very chummy relationship between Jeffrey Epstein and very powerful individuals who were connected to the Democrat Party up to and including elected representatives and, yes, delegates like Stacey Plaskett from the Virgin Islands. But here, James Comer totally torches Hakeem Jeffries because Hakeem Jeffries has been one of those loud Democrat voices out there suggesting that Donald Trump is hiding something. But you see, Hakeem Jeffries has had absolutely nothing to say about Stacey Plaskett. He's also had nothing to say about his own connections to Jeffrey Epstein that have come up inside these emails that they clearly did not want you to read.
Colleagues' coordination with Epstein. Another email shows Democrat fundraisers invited Epstein to an event or to meet privately with Hakeem Jeffries as part of their 2013 effort to win a majority. So Hakeem Jeffries' campaign solicited money from Jeffrey Epstein. That's what we found in the last document batch. The files underscore why former President Trump must appear for his deposition. We've subpoenaed him. To date, the Democrats have done nothing to help us secure his appearance. I support full transparency. The Oversight Committee will continue to work to get the truth to the American people and to get justice for the victims. That's our goal of this investigation. With that, I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. Yeah, Mr. Speaker, we reserve. The gentleman reserves. The gentleman.
Hakeem Jeffries has no commentary on his own direct connection to Jeffrey Epstein. That should be of no surprise to anyone. So earlier today, there was an outage on Cloudflare. So Cloudflare handles internet traffic for a whole bunch of big name sites like Twitter and even the Gateway Pundit, plenty of sites that you guys are probably using on a regular basis. And because of that, several of these websites were down. That delayed slightly the vote on the release of the Epstein files. Now, this was nearly unanimous. Now, this is really what Donald Trump wanted because the Congress, as I stated yesterday, many people left and right have been demanding the release of the Epstein files. Donald Trump wanted it on record that this was done by Congress, and therefore it allowed the Democrats just enough rope to hang themselves because he, I'm certain, was fully aware of all of the damaging material that was in there implicating the Democrats and all of their proxies, not only in the mainstream media, but in business banking, fundraising, etc. You may be surprised when you learn who the one vote against the release of the Epstein files was, but it's not going to be for the reason that you are probably thinking. This was nearly unanimous. 216 Republicans, yay. 211 Democrats, yay. 1 nay from the Republicans, and then there was a no vote from 2 Republicans and a no vote from 3 Democrats. That just means that they were not there, essentially. So this is now passed the Epstein Files Transparency Act through the U.S. House of Representatives. It's now going to go on to the U.S. Senate, where it's going to be voted on and then signed by President Trump. That is going to force the Department of Justice to release everything they have on the Epstein files. Now, it was Clay Higgins who voted against it, and I was initially perplexed by that. But let me read you his explanation that he put out there on X. He says, I have been a principled no on this bill from the beginning. What was wrong with the bill 3 months ago is still wrong today. It abandons 250 years of criminal justice procedure in America. As written, this bill reveals and injures thousands of innocent people. Witnesses, people who provided alibis, family members, etc. If enacted in its current form, this type of broad reveal of criminal investigative files released to a rabid media will absolutely result in innocent people being hurt. Well, not by my vote. The Oversight Committee is currently conducting a thorough investigation that has already released well over 60,000 pages of documents from the Epstein case. That effort will continue in a manner that provides all due process for innocent Americans. If the Senate amends the bill to properly address privacy of victims and other Americans who are named but not criminally implicated, then I will vote for that bill when it comes back to the House. Now, in a manner of speaking, I can absolutely understand that. There are certainly some Epstein victims who did not want to be named publicly. If they are now going to be named publicly, or their family members are going to be named publicly, and that's going to hurt them or damage them in some way, I don't think that that's a good thing. But as I said, this is now on the backs of the House and the Senate. If President Trump, through the Department of Justice, had just said, release it all, then whatever damage would have come from that would have then been the fault of President Trump. Now, if there is some level of damage to the personal lives of people who did nothing wrong, of course, this will be the fault of the people inside the House and the Senate. Now, Mike Johnson also spoke with reporters this morning, and he said that Senate Majority Leader Thune is planning to amend that discharge petition in the Senate. They are going to send it back to the House to deal with that particular issue, the issue of victims' privacy. But there is no certainty that the bill will even be processed by the Senate, he said. So the vote that we just saw in the House may not even actually happen in the Senate. That is definitely going to be interesting to see how they respond to it. Let's listen to Speaker Johnson after this message.
So what am I to do as a leader in a situation like this? I call my counterpart in the Senate, Leader Thune, and I talked him through this with him and shared our deep concerns. And of course, they share those concerns as well. And so I'm very confident that when this moves forward in the process, if and when it is processed in the Senate, which there's no certainty that that will be, that they will take the time methodically to do what we have not been allowed to do in the House, to amend this discharge petition and to make sure that these protections are there. The authors of the discharge did not allow us to do that here. That's the rules here. But in the Senate, they can correct it. So,
all right. So I obviously want to see as much as everybody else, but I am fully in favor of victims' names being redacted if they do not want their information released to the public. So it's funny here because the people who wrote the bill are Thomas Massie, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Ro Khanna, if I'm not mistaken. And they did not make the allowance for the victims to have their names redacted in this initial bill. I have to ask, I wonder why that was. But we are one step closer to getting the Epstein files released. Now, in addition to the Epstein files having been voted on, Ralph Norman of South Carolina, Republican, is also introducing a resolution which will censure Democrat delegate Stacey Plaskett, and it's also going to strip her of her seat on the House Intelligence Committee. Of course, this is all to do with Stacey Plaskett's personal, legal, and personal relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. She's the one who was texting Jeffrey Epstein in the midst of that hearing where Michael Cohen was testifying. So he said, I've introduced a resolution to censure Stacey Plaskett and remove her from the Intel Committee. Her coordination with Epstein during official congressional business is disgraceful, unethical, and an affront to this institution. That's corruption of judgment at the highest level. Now, If it wasn't for Stacey Plaskett's chummy relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, it's very possible that we may have learned more about Epstein in the past. Her position on the Intel Committee is also notable because the Intel Committee might be responsible for overseeing and releasing classified intelligence related to investigations in Jeffrey Epstein and his chummy relationship with the intelligence community as well. So again, no Democrats are commenting on the relationship between Stacey Plaskett or anybody else in their conference. And I think that Stacey Plaskett must be stripped of her position and censured. I don't know if this will lead to her being removed from her position as a delegate, but will certainly cast a dark shadow over her career. And let me see. I think we actually have a clip from Ralph. No, there is a clip from Ralph Norman, but we won't listen to that right now. All right. Now, before we continue, brief message from our friends over here on Rumble. And this particular sponsorship is from MCG Tactical. Take a look at that. Guys, are you tired of wasting ammo trying to sight that new optic? You're not Rambo. You're just burning money. Meet the Boar. It is the little laser gadget that saves your wallet and your pride. You just pop it in, turn it on, and bam, your sights are zeroed faster than your buddy can say, I think you're shooting low. No more guessing, no more range tips that cost more than a date night, and let's be honest, she's still mad about that last one. The Boar gets you dialed in before you even fire a shot. That means more hits, less cussing, and a whole lot more bragging rights. So quit wasting your ammo and start shooting smart. The Boar is cheaper than marriage counseling, and it's way more accurate. Grab yours before your buddy does and start taking credit for your aim. So you can see right here, it's a little device that just goes into your barrel. You turn it on, you can laser sight, turn that on, and then line your scope up with it, align your optic up with it, and you'll be shooting accurately in no time. You can use that QR code right there, or you can use the link that you see in the chat. Thank you very much to MCG Tactical and Rumble as well. All right, now, it is time for a little bit of blowback from somebody related to their relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, and the first head on the chopping block is going to be the former president of Harvard and a former economist for both Bill Clinton and Barack Hussein Obama, Larry Summers. Larry Summers is not really losing much of anything, but he is announcing a step back from any public commitments that he has. He says he's going to rebuild trust and repair the relationships with those he has damaged because he was good friends with Jeffrey Epstein. He's also a liberal icon. That's worth mentioning. But liberal icons seem to have no issue maintaining documented personal relationships with Jeffrey Epstein, even after he became a pedophile sex offender on the registry because of the activities he was involved in all over the world. But in this instance, it was down there in Palm Beach. He had professional collaborations with Jeffrey Epstein. He was chummy in emails. He was soliciting donations to Harvard and also to Summers' own family projects from Jeffrey Epstein. They would attend social dinners together. And like I said, they had chummy email exchanges. Summers also oversaw Epstein's nearly $9 million in donations personally to Harvard. And he was even granted an office on the Harvard campus. It was room 610, and they even called it Jeffrey's office. So anybody who had office space at Harvard in the vicinity, they would know that was Jeffrey Epstein's office. Even after that Florida conviction where Jeffrey Epstein was put on the list for the rest of his life, Larry Summers attended a party at Epstein's Manhattan mansion in 2011. And when Harvard rejected further Epstein gifts after his conviction, Summers continued to keep meeting with Epstein over a dozen times. Oftentimes, they would have dinner together. Epstein would donate $110,000 to a poetry video project that Summers' wife was putting together. She is also a professor at Harvard. Her name is Elisa New. And we can also look at the J.P. Morgan Chase lawsuit documents from 2022 and 2023. You'll probably remember former J.P. Morgan Chase executive Jess Staley. He He testified that Jeffrey Epstein referred Larry Summers as a potential bank client. So now Larry Summers has issued a statement saying that he's very, very sorry. The statement sent to the Harvard Crimson and other media on Monday said Summers would step back to rebuild trust and repair relationships with the people closest to me. I am deeply ashamed of my actions and recognize the pain they have caused. I take full responsibility for my misguided decision to continue communicating with Mr. Epstein. When asked about those emails last week, Summers issued that statement saying that he has great regrets in his life and that his association with Epstein was a major error in judgment. Now, here's the other thing. Although he will be stepping back from those public commitments, Larry Summers is reportedly going to continue to teach several economics courses at Harvard. And he will continue to fulfill those teaching obligations gracefully, but he will be stepping back from public life. He flew at least 4 times on Jeffrey Epstein's aircraft, and that includes a flight that is recorded where he made a trip to Jeffrey Epstein's island, and he was, of course, a top official at Harvard during the time that Epstein was donating all of that money. All right. Also, President Trump was asked in a White House visit from the Saudi Prince bin. I can't remember his name. What the heck is wrong with me today? Bin Salman, Saudi Prince Bin Salman. Anyways, he was asked about Jeffrey Epstein, and he totally torched the reporter for this question.
Mr. President, why wait for Congress to release the Epstein files? Why not just do it now?
You know, it's not the question that I mind, it's your attitude. I think you are a terrible reporter. It's the way you ask these questions. You start off with a man who's highly respected, asking him a horrible, insubordinate, and just a terrible question. And you could even ask that same exact question nicely. You're all psyched up. Somebody psychs you over at ABC. You're going to psych it. You're a terrible person and a terrible reporter. As far as the Epstein files is, I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. I threw him out of my club many years ago because I thought he was a sick pervert. But I guess I turned out to be right. But you know who does have? Bill Clinton, Larry Summers, who ran Harvard, was with him every single night, every single weekend. They lived together. They went to his island many times. I never did. Andrew Weissman, I hear. All these guys were friends of his. You don't even...
Andrew Weissman, that's a new name. I don't remember any specific association with Andrew Weissman and Jeffrey Epstein. That's going to be a juicy one. Hopefully that'll be coming up in the upcoming DOJ investigation.
Even talk about those people. You just keep going on the Epstein files. And what the Epstein is a Democrat hoax to try and get me not to be able to talk about the $21 trillion that I talked about today. It's a hoax. Now, I just got a little report, and I put it in my pocket, of all the money that he's given to Democrats.
Ooh.
He gave me none, zero, no money to me. But he gave money to Democrats. And people are wise to your hoax. And ABC's is, your company, your crappy company, is one of the perpetrators. And I'll tell you something.
So why not just sign it now?
I think the license should be taken away from ABC.
Ooh.
Because your news is so fake and it's so wrong. And we have a great commissioner, the chairman, who should look at that. Because I think when you come in and when you're 97% negative to Trump and then Trump wins the election in a landslide, that means obviously your news is not credible. And you're not credible as a reporter. So I've answered your question. You should go and look at the Democrats who received money from Epstein, who spent their time. Larry Summers was with him all the time. That creep, the fund guy, was with him all the time. What's his name? Who?
Reid Hoffman.
I don't know Reid Hoffman, but I know he spends a lot of money on the radical left. Reid Hoffman, in my opinion, should be under investigation. He's a sleazebag. And those are the people, but they don't get any press, they don't get any news, and you're not after the radical left because you're a radical left network. But I think the way you ask a question with the anger and the meanness, is terrible. You ought to go back and learn how to be a reporter. No more questions from you. Who else?
Metropolitan Police Department, I'd like to report a murder. President Trump just absolutely torched that woman. ABC News is a fake news organization. And here's the thing. President Trump is constantly working the art of war. This entire exercise has been an example of appearing weak when you are strong. He consistently said, stop talking about the Epstein files. He convinced these people to keep talking about the Epstein files. Now the Epstein files are coming out, and the only people who are going to be damaged from it are those that he mentioned, and many, many more. President Trump has the upper hand, and he has always had the upper hand in this particular argument. He never had a connection to Jeffrey Epstein other than the fleeting connection that we already know about. It was all of those other people, all of the Democrat politicians graciously and happily accepting money from Jeffrey Epstein, all of those Democrat politicians and business and banking executives and people from Harvard like Larry Summers that were going to his island, flying on his plane even after Jeffrey Epstein was a known sex offender. The only person who had ever been associated with Jeffrey Epstein that did not continue to have an association with him is Donald Trump. Donald Trump figured him out for being a sick pervert, as he said very early on, and kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago. Can't wait to see how far this goes. I was also really looking forward to Bill and Hillary Clinton appearing before the House Oversight Committee and testifying on their personal relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. I'd love to know about the starting of the Clinton Foundation with their former good friend, Jeffrey Epstein. But unfortunately, they are now refusing to come forward and testify. They were already set to testify earlier on a number of occasions. Hillary's deposition was for August 9th. Bill Clinton's scheduled deposition was October 9th, and Bill's was October 14th. Both of those scheduled depositions were delayed at the request of their counsel. But now they are saying, guess what? We're just not going to come in at all. They are very high-profile public figures who have had long-standing relationships with Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, and the entire network. And now that their scheduled depositions are not going to happen, it looks like the House Oversight Committee is likely going to have to force those depositions through the subpoena process. They knew since August of this year that they were scheduled to come on in. They've had plenty of time to get their story straight, and the fact that they're refusing to come in and testify at all should tell you everything you need to know about what it is they might be forced to answer if they were to come forward. So we've had, has Merrick Garland actually testified? I haven't heard anything about Merrick Garland's testimony. James Comey, he actually said, I had nothing to do with Epstein, and so I guess he's not coming in. Bill Barr did. Alberto Gonzalez, I believe he did come in. Jeff Sessions, I believe he did. Robert Mueller, he is apparently feeble-minded and unable to come in. Haven't heard anything about Loretta Lynch, but I know Eric Holder said that he had nothing to do with it either. But really, we all know that it was Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton who were prime suspect number one. They were the ones that we were waiting on. Now, it was Anna Paulina Luna who says that they're not coming in. Bill and Hillary are both refusing to appear before the House Oversight for their depositions regarding Jeffrey Epstein. Notice how House Democrats suddenly have nothing to say about it. I mean, undoubtedly, Bill Clinton would be asked about the 17 visits that Epstein made to the White House while he was president. Also, he would be asked about the 28 or so trips to the island, as President Trump said, the dozens of times that Bill Clinton was on the plane, Lolita Express, with Jeffrey Epstein. People always, but Trump was on Lolita Express. No, Trump wasn't on Lolita Express. The only plane that Trump flew on with Jeffrey Epstein was a different plane that would go between Palm Beach and New York. And that was a handful of times. Melania was there. The kids were there on a couple of occasions. It was simply a free trip that he took to New York. And it had nothing to do with those trips to the island that Bill Clinton needs to answer for. Now, it looks like we need to speak about what do you think? What do y'all think about JAG and Real Raw News not being sued for libel for 7 years? They say on their website that it's parody, so they can get away with saying whatever they want. Sean Combs is now being investigated for additional sexual assault allegations by the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. I thought this was perfect to queue up right after the Epstein stuff. So he is currently in prison. He's recently gotten in trouble for getting drunk on jungle juice or whatever they call it, the alcohol that they make from fermented fruits inside prison. And he does not want to spend any additional time there. But because he keeps screwing up, it might look like he's going to be spending more time in there than he wants to. So investigators have received a report on Friday from a police department in Florida where the alleged victim lives. Now, the County Sheriff's Department, LA County Sheriff's Department Special Victims Unit is investigating the allegations. A spokesperson for the Largo, Florida Police Department told ABC News, fake news ABC News, that the department assisted the East Los Angeles Sheriff's Office with an investigation into Sean Combs, but they are not investigating any alleged crimes independently. According to the police report, Combs pleasured himself in front of music producer Jonathan Hay, and he asked Hay to, quote, finish him off in February of 2020. Hay said he did not respond because he was in shock, and that Combs then tossed a semen-stained shirt at him. What a disgusting pervert. The report also details an alleged incident in which Hay's head was forcibly covered and Diddy forced his you-know-what inside his mouth several times. Hay provided the Largo police with pictures and videos to show he was collaborating with C.J. Wallace on a music project, which he then said led to him being introduced to Combs, and then these incidents occurred. Ugh. Well, I'm glad that he's come forward. I'm glad that he's saying something. All right. Now, we also have an announcement from Linda McMahon at the Department of Education. She has just announced that she and the Department of Ed are partnering with 4 agencies to break up the federal education bureaucracy and move us closer to President Trump's campaign promise of simply returning education to the states. Let's take a look at this interesting video that she posted. She said, "The clock is ticking."
I would like to dissolve the $10 billion National Department of Education created by President Carter. But better education doesn't mean a bigger Department of Education. In fact, that department should be abolished.
I can assure you that teachers don't want to waste their time making their way through a maze of regulations.
Senator Dole, do you still favor eliminating the Department of Education?
Yes.
We believe strongly that the best path to education reform is to trust the local people.
We have to literally erase the board and rethink from the ground up.
There's no authority for the federal government to be involved in education.
Ron Paul.
My administration will take all lawful steps to shut down the department. We're going to shut it down and shut it down as quickly as possible.
The final mission to disband the Department of Education. Now, Linda McMahon also did an interview talking about exactly what they're going to do. She said the announcement follows the plan that POTUS had on day one. Returning education to the states, he believes, as I do, that the best education is education that's closest to the child, not run from the bureaucracy in Washington, D.C. Now, the Department of Education is really the Department of Brainwashing. Okay, they want to ensure that the education system brings people up in such a way that they are compliant, that quite often they are not ready to enter into adult life. And it has been a tremendous waste of money, graft, waste, fraud, abuse. And many children today graduating high school lack the basic skills that I think we learned as we were growing up. I mean, I saw problems in education when I was in school, and it's much, much worse today than it was, before I graduated from high school in 1996.
And the announcement really follows the plan that President Trump has had since day one, and that is returning education to the states. he fully believes, as do I, the best education is that's closest to the child and not run from a bureaucracy in Washington, D.C. So the announcement that we made this afternoon was what we are doing to take certain programs that are now part of the Department of Education and what we call signing interagency agreements, and that is that we procure the services of other agencies. It's kind of a bit of a test run. Mm-hmm. We want to move on a temporary basis some of those programs to different agencies. The funding still comes from the Department of Education. The management of those programs, the oversight of those programs is still at the department, but we want to see if what we think to be true is that they will function much more in a streamlined fashion and much more efficiently if we relocate those programs into other agencies. And so if we do that, I call it the proof of concept. Mm-hmm. Well, we'll move it, we'll see how it works, we will deliver then to Congress the outcomes, and we then hope that Congress will then vote to codify the permanent move of those independent programs to those agencies, and eventually that will be all of the programs that the Department of Education has oversight over, and then we'll be ready to get rid of that bureaucracy and fully return things to the states where I do believe it belongs.
All right, Artsy Joan wanted to know, what is our rank in math and science? So I'm looking at stats from the National Center for Education Statistics, and it looks like they are lumping reading, math, and science literacy among 15-year-old students. It looks like the top country would be Singapore, and it's several Asian countries that are up at the top, and gosh, we are way, way below. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34. We are ranked 34. And it looks like this is from approximately 70 nations around the world. And let me see if we can... U.S. academic achievement lags that of many other countries. We are aware of that. U.S. math scores decline dramatically on international tests. This is Center for the American Experiment. Let's see. The Trends in International Mathematics and Science Study assesses 4th and 8th graders from the U.S. and other countries around the world every 4 years. The U.S. national sample includes both public and private schools, randomly selected and weighted to be representative of the nation at grade 4 and at grade 8. Across 9,000 U.S. 4th grade students from 242 schools and over 8,000 U.S. 8th graders from 211 schools. The latest results allow us to examine student performance changes since 2019, prior to COVID-19, and 1995, nearly 30 years since this program was first administered. In 2023, 63 education systems participated at the 4th grade level. U.S. math scores. In math, in math, average U.S. 4th grade and 8th grade scores were lower in 2023 than they were in 2019 by 18 and 27 points, respectively. Math results for both grades are the lowest they have been since the TIMS, which is the Trends in International Mathematics and Science Study, began in 1995. We were going up until about 2017, it looks like, and then they began to drop. Actually, science was going up until 2017, and then it began to drop. Mathematics scores began to drop in 2011, which is interestingly around the time that they introduced Common Core. And then they both dropped precipitously after 2019. In 8th grade, it's even worse. That was 4th grade. 8th grade, it looks like it's even worse. And again, the average 4th grade math scores, Singapore is number 1. United States is ranked about, looks like 20 or so below them. The same with 8th grade. So yes, internationally, we are not doing very well in comparison to other westernized nations, and even looks like some third world nations as well. There are many Eastern European countries which appear to be doing better than the United States. And yeah, so the connection to COVID would be the forcing of keeping children at home and distance learning. And of course, there's a lot of other things that you can put in there, but allowing electronic devices and phones in classrooms is going to capture the attention of children and stop them from paying attention to the teachers. I mean, they've done a couple of studies recently which show that schools which keep those electronic devices out of the room, those children's attention span and their ability to comprehend what they're actually being taught is increased dramatically. Well, Penelope, there's that as well. Yes, they may cause stupidity, and they, actually, I think that there have been some studies which show that. All right, now we also have some interesting news. The United Nations Security Council has just passed a resolution on Monday which supports President Trump's 20-point peace plan for Gaza. And Trump has actually been named the chairman of the Board of Peace. Quite an interesting title, and one that I definitely support. The resolution has passed the council 13-0-2. And they endorsed the president's plan, which means that the Hamas agreed to the October 8th plan, and Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, the Emir of Qatar, Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, and Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan have all officially endorsed the signing with President Trump on October 13th. Congratulations, President Trump wrote on Truth Social, to the world on the incredible vote of the United Nations Security Council just moments ago, acknowledging and endorsing the Board of Peace, which will be chaired by me and include the most powerful and respected leaders throughout the world. This will go down as one of the biggest approvals in the history of the United Nations. It will lead to further peace all around the world and is a moment of true historic proportion. President Trump thanked all the countries on the council, in addition to the countries that endorsed the resolution last week ahead of the vote, but are not on the council, which include Egypt, Jordan, Indonesia, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and the United Arab Emirates. Now, interestingly enough, the United Nations has also announced that they need money. They are demanding billions of dollars in cash donations from member nations because they say that people are going hungry and it is the fault of their declining bank accounts. Send in cash, they said. Please give. No questions asked. That's the call from the UN's World Food Program, as they warned they are struggling to feed people in third world nations. Approximately 318 million people are facing severe hunger in 2026. Even with all of that money that's already being given to many different programs all around the world. Declines in global humanitarian funding. See, they are blaming the shutdown of the NGO industrial complex, in my opinion, are forcing the World Food Program to prioritize food assistance to roughly 1/3 of those in need. That would cost $13 billion, they are suggesting, and current funding forecasts indicate that the World Food Program may only receive close to half of that goal. Maybe they need to look into the waste, fraud, and abuse of these programs and make sure that the money that's going out for the feeding of these people is actually ending up in the hands of those who can use it and not going into the pockets of corrupt individuals around the world. So anyways, I think the United Nations is in a bad spot, certainly, but I don't necessarily think that more money is the answer. I think they need to be taking a closer look at the way money is being spent. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman was a guest of President Trump's at the White House today. There is a deal that was being made to sell F-35s to Saudi Arabia. Also, a major announcement of capital investment by the Saudi royal family and the nation of Saudi Arabia here in the United States. We can add to that multi-trillion dollars of investment that President Trump has brought here. I think he mentioned $21 trillion earlier today. Well, there will be another $1 trillion that we can announce after this Saudi royal visit. Now, what's hilarious is that President Trump took Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman through the Hall of Heroes, as he calls it.
Bilateral
And you can see here, he shows him the Biden auto pen picture. Take a look at President Trump explaining the auto pen to him. And he's like, come on, can you believe this? He didn't sign anything. We can't hear what he's saying, but I can only imagine. And I can also imagine that Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman is also highly entertained to see these two stunning portraits of President Trump looking. Look at this. He points to his picture. And he's talking about the picture. I think this is so funny. Absolutely love President Trump's sense of humor. Also need to say thank you very much to Northern Pike, who says, Zach, you are still sensitive, and that's a beautiful thing for this world. You're in tune. That's what more people or men should understand, that it would help the world. This is coming from an old man. Awesome. Thank you very much, man. I really appreciate it. Teresa Pagano, once again, a monthly supporter over on Rumble. Thank you, Teresa. Lee Walden also says, please, Mr. President, do not accept the Nobel BS tribute. It's time we create a peace prize named in your honor. I'll start with the Prince of Peace. Just a thought. I like that. Yeah, you know, I don't think that anybody at the Nobel Committee is ever going to award President Trump the Nobel Peace Prize, so we don't got to worry about that. But yeah, I would be in favor of some other accolade. I think that Chairman of the Board of Peace, I think that says a whole heck of a lot. All right, now, let me say thank you to Uncensored Abe for the shades over on Pilled. Thank you to Boys Blanc for the cookie. Thank you to Sean Joe for the can. Thank you to Filter Dog, who says the Senate has unanimously voted to release all the Epstein files. It now heads to President Trump's desk. That was fast. Did they take care of the issue with the victims that will be doxxed? Judy the Lady Pug, thank you for the cookie. No thanks, Joe, says thank you, Lisa and Zach, as I find every single day I watch your reporting. Thank you for your effort you put in bringing us the best reports that are out there. God bless and be safe. Thank you, sir. I really appreciate you there. Yasman says, good stream today, Zach. Thank you for all the news and the in-depth details. I appreciate you as well. Sean Joe, thank you for 3, 4, 5, 6 cookies. Thank you, sir. Genesepe says, working and lurking. Thank you, Jen. Good to see you out there. Trump 1, thank you for the cookie. Sir Lurks a lot. Thank you for the ship. And Sean Joe, thank you for 2 more cookies. All right. Jeff P. over on YouTube. Glad to see you back on YouTube. Oh, Zoo-Q. Zoo-Q, good to see you, buddy. Yes, definitely. Call him Prince Bin Bin. Oh, Kelvin Finch. Also, thank you to Artsy Joan, who says you are the best. Thank you, Joan. I really appreciate you. All right. Also, breaking news, Badlands Media's John Harold is now going to match the investment dollars of Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman in the United States. That's obviously a joke. John does not have $1 trillion to invest. However, the prince had originally agreed to a certain level of investment, and he told the president while they were live in the Oval Office that it was actually going to be nearly double that. Let's take a listen.
And if you'd like to say a few words, but thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. This relation has been a relation for about 9 decades, and we've been working together for a long time. But today it's a very important time in our history, because there is also a lot of things that we're working on in the future. We believe in the future of the United States of America. We believe in what you're doing, Mr. President, really creating a lot of good things and good foundation to create more economic growth, more business in America. And it will also your work for the world peace. I believe, Mr. President, today and tomorrow we're going to announce that we are going to increase that $600 billion to almost $1 trillion of investment, real investment and real opportunity by details in many areas. And the agreement that we are signing today in many areas in technology, in AI, in earth materials, magnet, etc., that will create a lot of investment opportunities.
So you are doing that now. You're saying to me now that the $600 billion will be $1 trillion.
Definitely, because what we are signing, it will facilitate that, and
I like that very
much.
He works hard. No, that's great. I appreciate that. That's great. We're doing numbers that nobody's ever done. And in all fairness, if you
now in a expanded version of that clip, Prince bin Salman mentions, you said it yourself, the United States is the hottest country in the world. And it is quite remarkable the amount of investment that the president has been able to bring here. When you take a look at the sum total of these 10 and a half, 11 months that President Trump has had to drive funding and investment and bringing back production and manufacturing and the creation of jobs, it really shows you that the past administrations have completely and utterly, intentionally dropped the ball on creating a foundation for the American people. Bin Salman is absolutely correct. What President Trump is doing is astounding, and he is creating an infrastructure and an environment which is going to drive continued investment here in the United States. We are fully moving into a wonderful time for the people of this country. The golden age is within reach. I am so excited about the future and everything that it holds. Not only for us, because I do believe that we are going to feel the impacts of these investments, but most importantly for future generations. America is the most wonderful nation on the face of this planet, and other nations see that. And through this investment that is being driven, these cooperative relationships, it's also going to secure that vision for peace that President Trump has. Christ is the Prince of Peace at the end of the day, but President Trump, he is the CEO of the Board of Peace. All right. Now, also, in the Oval Office, one of these businesses that is, they sent an employee. This is GE Verona. Somebody who is from this company, he's speaking about the benefits that he personally has witnessed from all of the foreign investment that President Trump has been able to drive. And that includes investment that's come so far from Saudi Arabia. But President Trump wanted him to speak about this because, it's important to hear how this is actually happening on the ground right now.
David, could you say a few words about what you're seeing on the job front and all of the some of the assets, and also how we've been helped by the Saudis in terms of the kind of investment they've made, please?
Yeah, most certainly. Thank you for the opportunity. I am a facility leader for GE Vernova, and if you look at the landscape for GE Vernova investment, over $750 million in the U.S. focused on true manufacturing jobs here stateside. We're looking at tripling the output of our Greenville, South Carolina facility, where we make the gas turbines that are supporting U.S. needs as well as the Saudi Arabia needs.
Right.
So real jobs, $300 million in gas investment, resulting in over 500 pieces of new equipment. Carolina facility. That translates into roughly 1,800 jobs across the board for GE Vernova as we try to scale capacity to be able to meet this demand. Along with that, we're partnering with local communities to build the skill set that's required to meet these capacity needs. So that talent pipeline is incredibly important. So it's real jobs in the manufacturing space.
Absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. Nobody is going to be unemployed in the future. Every single person who wants to work is going to have the opportunity to do so. So again, I just wanted to show this picture that the White House had shared in regards to the announcement of his position as the CEO of the Board of Peace. And President Trump and the White House share it, and I think it's a stunning portrait, beautifully composed. The light coming in through that window, illuminating President Trump's face as he sits there, just powerfully commanding this space. The peacemaker in chief. This is truly the vision of peace through strength. President Trump is creating that for the United States and for the world. Beautiful, beautiful picture. All right. Now, in addition to that, President Trump continues to have an incredible effect on other global leaders. Here we have the chairman of Toyota, Aiko Toyota, and he was at a race in a NASCAR event in Japan, and he showed up wearing MAGA gear. He's wearing a Make America Great Again hat, and he's wearing a Trump Vance 2024 shirt. Look at this. He didn't have to do this, but of course he did because he, too, loves President Trump. Toyota has just invested. Toyota has just invested a ton of money here. They're building factories, batteries, cars. Look at him. Look at him. He's happy as a clam. Look at they're waving an American flag in Japan. Beautiful stuff. Beautiful stuff. Lee Walden says, have you ever noticed that when the boss sits down, he's always forwarding his chair? He's always ever present, and I love it. The CEO of Peace. Love you, Zach. Great job, buddy. Thanks, man. Love you too, Lee. Yeah, he is a commanding presence, okay? Like, he is like, you know, feet forward, chest forward. He's in your face. President Trump wants you to know that he is driving the conversation. He is also in control of every situation that he's in. Here's just another couple of quick images, a little bit more higher quality. The CEO of Toyota right here, full MAGA. He did not have to do this, but obviously he loves President Trump just as much as we do. And we need to have those strong relationships with world leaders. All right. Now, real quick, before we continue, one more message from our friends over here on Rumble. And once again, reminding you that today's episode is brought to you by MCG Tactical. Every guy's got one friend at the range. You know them well. He's the one who needs an entire ammo can just to hit a paper. But don't be that guy. Get the bore sighter that saves you time, money, and embarrassment. Just plug it in, line it up, and boom, you're zeroed in faster than your buddy can Google, why am I shooting left? No wasting rounds, no bruised ego, no explaining to your wife why you lost another $200 in ammo. It just vanished. The bore, because being accurate shouldn't cost you a small fortune or your dignity. Save the ammo for the fun part. Pick up the bore today and become the range hero your group chat desperately needs. Awesome stuff. And very cool. I'm going to get them to send me one. Thank you very much for the support, you guys. All right. Now, this is a story that is a follow-up to something that we began reporting quite some time ago. You might remember the Chinese mole, Linda Sun, who was working for Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul. She was embedded in Kathy Hochul's administration, and she was also taking a lot of money and ingratiating herself. Her husband was also in on the grift. It turns out that she wasn't just managing relationships for the government of the state of New York and the Chinese Communist Party. She was also using Kathy Hochul's signature to forge documents. Now, we're learning about this because Linda Sun is currently on trial. So she would use Kathy Hochul's signature in glowing missives that were sent to dignitaries from the Henan province in China, and the feds have produced these documents and presenting them as evidence in Linda Sun's trial. Now, jurors in her Brooklyn trial were shown copies of these letters that were sent allegedly by Kathy Hochul. On March 26th of 2018, these letters invited a 6-member delegation from the province in central China to a meeting with then Governor Cuomo. Now, the letters bore clearly forged versions of Kathy Hochul's signatures, and they featured an overly loopy handwriting, and it was testimony from her former chief of staff, Jeff Lewis, that exposed these documents as having been forged. The K is different than it would typically be, he said. I don't have another word for it, but they seem to be overly loopy or bubbled nature. The letter suggested that members of the delegation could expect discussions about promoting greater investment in New York, trade cooperation, and tourism employees inside tourism opportunities inside the Empire State. Prosecutors say that Linda Sun, who had served as Cuomo's director of Asian American Affairs, forged the governor's then number 2, Kathy Hochul's signature several times that year in an attempt to curry favor with Chinese officials. Over the same time, Linda Sun's alleged handlers in Beijing would then shower her family with gaudy gifts, and they steered millions of dollars in contracts to her husband, Chris Hu's seafood export business. In exchange, Linda Sun, who also worked as a top aide to Hochul when she succeeded Cuomo as governor, attempted to advance China's agenda in New York State. Her loyalties were for sale, federal prosecutors said. The Chinese government, which wanted influence in New York government, was willing to pay her to do their bidding. Sun and Hu are both separately charged for taking illegal kickbacks from a PPE company that was run by Sun's cousin in exchange for recommending that the state dole out millions of dollars in contracts to the firm in the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic. Jurors on Monday saw evidence that the alleged spoils from the purportedly crooked schemes could be found at Sun's parents' home in Flushing, Queens, and the $4 million Long Island mansion that the married couple shared at the time of their arrest last year. Probably had to sell it to pay for their legal bills. A special agent from the FBI's New York field office also testified he found a pearl necklace at Sun's parents' home that was tucked in a jewelry box that also contained the business card of a Chinese government official. Jurors were also shown a glimpse of a Rolex watch that the feds recovered from her parents' home and a Patek Philippe, I don't know what that is, that the FBI found inside the $4 million Manhasset mansion where Sun and Hugh lived. Hang on, I need to know what a Patek Philippe is. Is that another watch, maybe? Anybody here bougie enough to know what a Patek Philippe is? Yeah, it's a watch. Okay, it's a watch. All right. Now, prosecutors are also expected to reveal a lot more about the alleged fruits of this scheme that Sun and Hugh were involved in, including the Sun family having received several fancy Nanjing-style salted ducks prepared by the personal chef of a Chinese consular official. Here is Linda Sun right there with Chinese dignitaries. Hochul, not Cuomo, ended up meeting with the Henan province delegation herself in June of 2018, and the meeting only lasted a few minutes, but Hochul posed for a photo with these Chinese dignitaries. Sun, who had set up the meeting, was anxious after Lewis, the former number two to Kathy Hochul, had threatened to cancel the sit-down because Hochul had not taken adequate time to prepare to discuss the issues that the delegation wanted to speak about. Sun's other alleged acts on behalf of China included secretly placing a consulate official on a private phone call in 2020 where New York state officials were discussing their response to the pandemic. She also allegedly used her position of power to sway Cuomo and Hochul to not meet with officials from the communist nation's rival of Taiwan, and she once allegedly stopped Cuomo from publicly thanking the island nation of Taiwan. Sun had also risen through the ranks to become a deputy chief in the executive chamber before she was fired in March of 2023 after the administration uncovered misconduct that they then reported to law enforcement. The trial is expected to last 3 or more weeks and feature testimony from a number of other state officials and experts in U.S.-China relations. The Sun also revealed Monday they plan to call Sun's own mother as a prosecution witness over the objection of her attorneys. Her mother is expected to take the stand sometime Tuesday after the trial resumes with testimony from a New York State ethics expert. And Sun, of course, and her husband have both pleaded not guilty for failing to register as Chinese agents and other charges. Hu, however, has denied charges of federal program, bribery, money laundering, and fraud. And the lawyer for Sun, Jared Schaefer, has argued that the alleged Chinese agent was, in fact, a dedicated public servant. A dedicated public servant, but still Chinese and still giving money in the form of bribes for services gained and rendered. That's a quid pro quo evidence relationship. The evidence will show that Linda was working on behalf of New Yorkers. This New Yorker was working for New York, but she was being paid by China. So anyways, Linda allegedly received not only the money for this Long Island mansion, there was also a second home in Hawaii that was approximately $2 million. She also was in possession of luxury cars like a Ferrari Roma. And she also had a lot of other gifts that she had received from the Chinese. Let's take a look and see what's a Ferrari Roma. I'm not familiar with a Ferrari Roma. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, that's a nice car. Look at that. Dang. You show up working in New York State government, driving a Ferrari Roma, and people are going to start asking questions. Just saying. Damn, that is nice. Wow. I bet you that's a fast mother. Dang, look at that. I wonder if it was gold bars. Exactly, gold bars, just like New Jersey's own senator. Okay. All right. Now, you probably remember Graham Plattner. Graham Plattner is the candidate for Senate in Maine who had a Nazi tattoo on his chest. Well, he's also now been caught on audio tape saying that if he gets into power, he plans to help pack the U.S. Supreme Court. He also plans to start impeaching judges who don't do what he wants, who doesn't do what he wants. Hold on. Let's take a listen.
We're going to have to start treating the Supreme Court like the political action wing that it has become of conservatism. It is not functioning as a constitutional body.
Impeachment.
And it's very frustrating for me that there are, I think there are Democrats in the Senate that either do not understand or don't want to understand the power they actually have. And there is the Senate, for, I mean, if we retake the Senate, get the majority, fingers crossed, we need to use every single lever of power that we have to deal with the Supreme Court. And I think that a lot of that's going to be an ethics oversight. I'm a supporter of stacking the court. I'm also a supporter of, the Senate can write its own rules. The Senate can come up with its own ethics oversight requirements. It just chooses not to. This is important. And I firmly believe if we held Supreme Court justices to the same standard that we hold other federal judges, there's a compelling case for the impeachment and removal of at least two.
Wow. Wow. You know, I mean, these people always say how they really feel when they think nobody's listening. This is an excellent argument. We've been making this for quite some time. The rules of engagement are entirely different nowadays. And if these people are allowed to come back to power, they are going to do everything within their means to destroy any hopes of us righting this ship. I had I had a conversation with John last night. A lot of people in the chat were perceiving it as an argument. John and I had kind of a difference of opinion about the direction things are going. And John, believes that we need to be operating at all times under the opinion that things are not going to go well for us. My opinion is that it is healthy to recognize that things could go one way or the other. You have to be prepared for any outcome. However, I have the opinion that President Trump and the administration are fully aware of what's at stake. And based upon that knowledge, I don't believe that they're going to allow us to backslide and become what America was or the direction that it was going. However, that doesn't mean that members of the House and the Senate are on board with that. And they need to understand that these people, they do not care about decorum. They don't care about rules. They don't care about ethics. They are dirty. Like, it is necessary at times to meet people on their level. We have to actually do that if we're going to overcome some of these people. Now, this is a brief clip here. However, I thought that it was worth mentioning because Jerry Nadler in this clip is defending Anthony Fauci and the way that he treated those beagles that he was torturing. Take a listen to this.
Now, true, animals were used in his medical experiments, as always are the case. You don't want to give a new drug to a person.
Well, actually, they do give new drugs to people all the time. Here's the thing, though. In normal medical experiments, other physicians and doctors are not paralyzing beagles and then placing flesh-eating flies into a bag and then wrapping that bag around the face of that beagle. There's also just a lot of other nasty things that Anthony Fauci did to the beagles. But I can't believe that Jerry Nadler is trying to defend Anthony Fauci's medical experiments. What about the medical experiments that Anthony Fauci was running on black orphans in New York in the 1980s? I wonder if he would also try to defend that behavior.
Without first testing it on animals. That is part of the scientific method. It is absolutely necessary for safety for human beings. Now, Mr. Biggs mentioned someone else, I forget who it was, who he said was cruel to animals. He may well have been. But when he mentioned Anthony Fauci, he was not. He simply used animals in the proper scientific method to protect human beings. And I don't think we want to say that drugs should be tested or medical procedures should be tested first on humans without being tested first on animals. Now,
I think that there are models that can be used to determine if ingredients of a recipe, a drug, you know, a chemical, we can figure out pretty easily using perhaps artificial intelligence models how that is going to respond in a body. I personally am against animal testing. I don't think that that's something that we should be doing. And quite often, the experiments that Anthony Fauci was running on animals were inhumane and unnecessary. And I think that it is and let's just like get to like a base level. If you're going to be putting something into anybody's body that is going to be producing a reaction like this, it's just not something that you should be using. There are far too many chemicals and drugs and creations, concoctions that they are attempting to put into human bodies, animal bodies that they already know, in my opinion, are dangerous and should simply not be used. So I think that we've moved beyond the point where it is necessary to tie a bag of flesh-eating flies around the face of a beagle and allow them to eat their flesh. That just doesn't make any sense. Let me see. Let me say thank you to Sean Joe for, looks like, 1, 2, 3, 4 more cookies. Also, Sir Lurks a lot for the ship. Thank you very much. I appreciate you guys over there on Pilled. All right, now, good news coming out of Texas. Governor Greg Abbott has just officially labeled the Muslim Brotherhood and the Council on American Islamic Relations, also known as CAIR, as terrorist organizations, but more importantly, foreign terrorist and transnational criminal organizations. So this bans CAIR and the Muslim Brotherhood from the purchase or ownership of any land in Texas. And it also empowers the Attorney General, Ken Paxton, to take legal action to shut them down. So this is really good news, and it addresses a big fear that people have had in Texas and around the country for quite some time. I think a lot of people have wondered why CAIR or the Muslim Brotherhood had not previously been branded as foreign terrorist organizations. And so if I'm not mistaken, this will have an effect on that Islamic settlement that is being built, which has already been found to be illegal. What is that Texas? What is that Texas Islamic development? Let me see. Epic City. That's what it was. Epic City. Now, does CAIR or the Muslim Brotherhood have something to do with Epic City? I can tell you this. I've definitely seen this. 48 mosques have opened in Texas in the last 24 months. This is being funded by Qatar and Saudi Arabia. They pay the salaries of the imams and control the message. National security threat needs to be stopped. Okay, Epic City, East Plano Islamic Center, coming to Plano, Texas. These are some of the people from Epic City that are talking about this development.
A guy from Bangladesh comes over to the USA Stop naming streets.
Stop naming streets after Islamic. It's unbelievable. I cannot sometimes even believe it. It's unbelievable what Allah can do for you.
The what's called verbal manifestations. If you keep saying something to someone, they'll become like that. If you keep telling someone they're a villain, they'll become a villain. People keep saying, "Bro, these Muslims are taking over." The masses, you know what?
It's taking over.
If you keep calling, if you keep saying it,
yes,
I'm actually gonna do it.
The New York Times is attacking Governor Abbott, trying to portray him as the villain after a criminal
guy from Bangladesh. Streets, Khalid ibn al-Walid, Tariq bin Ziyad, like all the great conquerors. Like people need to Google those conquerors and know like what are we made of. Yeah, like Google Khalid.
So they're joking about the renaming of streets with the names of Islamic conquerors, and
there's a civil war.
Joking about how they actually are taking over, and it's essentially being allowed to happen.
Going on in America right now, right under your nose, and you may not even realize it. The weapons being used aren't bullets, they're building permits.
279-acre land. So like you said, brother, masjid, homes, a total Muslim village. So we're still debating on the name, but it's going to be something Muslim name and a village attached to it, right?
They're not just building houses, they're building a beachhead for Islamic conquest in the heart of Texas. Epic City, which stands for East Plano Islamic Center, is a 279-acre development outside Dallas.
Of the streets, Khalid ibn al-Walid, Tariq bin Ziyad, like all the great conquerors. Like people need to Google those conquerors and know like what are we made of. Yeah, like Google Khalid ibn al-Walid. Google Tariq bin Ziyad.
Tariq bin Ziyad is a Muslim commander who invaded Spain and conquered Christian land. And
all right, so now I know that there was some effort to stop this from happening, but I'm not certain that it has been fully shut down because there has been quite a bit of construction. Epic City. Let's take a look at recent news. Muslim-led Epic City rebrands amid political scrutiny. Yeah, they've got a new name now, so it's no longer Epic City. It's now called something else. A North Texas master plan community, formerly known as Epic City, is casting out its name in hopes of squashing confusion around its rollout. Developer Community Capital Partners has rebranded the 402-acre project as the Meadow, a move it says better reflects the site's character and family-focused design. The name change follows public confusion over whether Epic City was meant to form its own municipality. Representatives for the Plano-based firm told the outlet. In a statement, Community Capital Partners said the name change sought to better describe the beautiful property and inclusive family-centered mixed-use master plan community being designed. The Meadow is 40 miles northeast of downtown Dallas, more than 1,000 homes, senior and assisted living facilities, apartments, a community college, a mosque, a K-12 faith-based school, retail, medical clinics, and athletic fields. Community Capital Partners is a for-profit venture funded by members of the East Plano Islamic Center, and the rebrand follows months of political heat. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton and other top Republicans have called for investigations into the project. We've reported on that, citing potential securities violations and discrimination concerns. Last month, Paxton accused the developers of breaking federal and state securities laws, reported on that, though he didn't specify which ones, and he said he's considering legal action against from the State Securities Board. Other probes have fizzled. In September, the Texas Workforce Commission settled a Fair Housing Act complaint against the developers. The U.S. Department of Justice dropped its civil rights inquiry in June. After John Cornyn had raised concerns, Governor Greg Abbott said as many as a dozen state agencies are still looking into potential illegal activities. Now, this was as of November 11th. So this is still happening. And it remains to be seen what Greg Abbott's announcement from today will actually have to do with the ultimate results. All right, guys, we are going to be closing it down here in just a moment, but I did want to announce that the first day of Operation Charlotte's Web has captured 81 illegal aliens in Charlotte, North Carolina. Greg Bavino confirmed this to the media. 81 arrested as of Saturday, and he said many of whom had significant criminal and immigration history violations. They are off the streets. This was done in about 5 hours. Stay tuned, more to come. And Border Patrol agents arrested 2 lunatics in Charlotte after separate attacks. One of them we talked about yesterday, the individual who drove their car over a curb and drove at federal agents. But there was another one. This was the one that I believe I played the video, but this person has been arrested. This was near Charlotte, University City. There was a van that was driving at federal officials. Both of these people have been arrested. They have been charged. And finally, Tom Homan says that next they will be deploying to New York City.
But New York City, I plan on being in New York City in the near future. We're going to do operations in New York City. We know in New York City, me and Mayor Adams at one point had an agreement to let ICE into Rikers Island so we can arrest the public safety threats and the safety and security of that facility, but the city council shut it down. So we're going to be coming to New York City. We're already there now. I mean, teams are there now. But we will increase the enforcement presence in New York City, again, because they're a sanctuary city, and we know we have an issue there with public safety threats hitting the street every day.
With that answer.
All right. Looking forward to seeing Tom Homan and the boys heading on to New York, New York. All right, you guys. Final thank yous over here on Rumble. Mesmerist, thank you very much. Good to see you. Good morning, Zach and the crew. Good to see you. G. Fontez, appreciate that $20 donation. G. Fontez, 119. Pateks are well into the 6 figures or more. Available in many precious metals. Oh, you're talking about the watch. It took a bit, not being the simplest site to browse, but I did find one as close to low as my car would have been new. Patek Philippe's. Yeah, I don't think I'll be owning one of those anytime soon. Definitely not before the yacht. All right. And thank you. That will be all, you guys. All right. I really appreciate you being here. Thanks for hanging out. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you had a good time. Hopefully you will join me here tomorrow once again at 5 p.m. Eastern for yet another exciting episode of Red Pill News Live. And other than that, I hope you guys have a great evening. Hope you enjoy dinner with your families. And we will see you next time. Good luck. God bless. It's so funny. Somebody on YouTube said it's bullshit. Nobody else confirmed this about the Clintons. Well, guess what? As I reported, it was a member of the committee that was meant to be questioning them. I'm a day ahead of the fake news. So yeah, stay tuned because others will be reporting on this. I'm just faster, baby. Don't forget to hit that like button. Don't forget to hit the red pill. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up. Y'all can also help out by sharing the show. You can also go to the description of the video and help out by supporting the other sponsors of the show. My good buddy Mike Lindell over at mypillow.com. Use code RP78 to save up to 80% off of Mike Lindell's amazing American-made products. My friend over at Real Rife Technology. Use code RedPill78 to save 10 or maybe 15% off their electromedicine devices. My friend Jordan over at ConsciousStrength.net. Use code RP78 to save 10% off of all of their products. That's where I get my methylene blue. And, of course, My Patriot Supply. Prepare with RedPill78.com. They have a whole bunch of deals. They have a Black Friday survival special going on right now. $150 in free gear when you get one of their 4-week food supplies. They have everything you need to stay off the grid. So funny, Rook. There's still a lot of salt over there on YouTube, isn't there? Seems like it's gotten worse over the years. All the cool kids left. But thank you for watching over on YouTube. Peace.